be educated, but I'm so frustrated. Hello to my loneliness. I guess that ignorance is bliss. Take me back to before I knew. Rewind, take it out of cue. Innocence can be a young man's game. Signed up for the hall of shame. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I like to be away in my patience. Stay up, I feel so outdated. How can we look the other way? Sun is out, but the sky is gray. What would happen if I took a chance? It's always hard at first glance. I don't wanna, but I know I gotta do it. The truth is hard to swallow, I think I'll chew it. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew how much I miss not knowing that we're all screwed when we play our roles and ignore the problems. I wish I knew.
Embrace section in City Montessori School, Gomti Nagar Extension in Lucknow. And now I don't know how many of you might know this, that CMS or City Montessori School is actually the biggest school in the entire world. They have around 18 campuses, as ma'am told me just before the session began, all over Lucknow. She has taken up various challenging posts and positions in this huge organization called CMS, and she has a lot of experience in making processes, integrating technology so that the learning can be made more enjoyable and, you know, more holistic and intrinsic for the students since 2017. Welcome, Ms. Sushma Rajkumar, to the session.
Thank you, Saurabh.
And then finally, we have Ms. Ritika Anand. She is the Vice Principal of Academics from St. Mark's Senior Secondary Public School in Mirabagh in New Delhi. Ritika ma'am is actually a science graduate and postgraduate. And she has 2 decades of experience with 15 years in school administration, achieving a lot of difficult, seemingly unrelated things together by making a right balance between academics and co-curricular activities, making activity-based teaching, the primary focus of the entire learning experiment at that school. Her basic strength is developing creative curricula. Ma'am, welcome. Thank you so much for joining in as a panelist here.
Thank you so much, Saurabh.
Great. So now that we're done with all the introductions and we're done with describing the topic, I would like to invite some introductory comments from all of you. The topic again is challenges for primary school kids and children in the changing education system. We'll start with Dr. Narjeet. Ma'am, what do you think about this?
This pandemic is something I have never seen. I mean, the kind of scenario we have had, the kind of scenario that we are seeing now, is something that we haven't ever seen below, and it gave us a lot of shockers also. Overnight we are switching from chalk and dust and chalk and dusters to blackboards, which are called jamboards, and from slip-ons, which are called, so many things were different, so many things. And smaller children especially, they are trained from the beginning to fall into a set routine. They know that this is their set routine, and they it was very very sudden for them. So bringing them on online platforms was the hardest thing. I mean, with the bigger children, they are already into a lot of technology. They are already into, I know this app, I can do YouTubing, I can do Facebooking and everything. But with smaller children it was difficult, especially with pre-primary children. So the parents had a hard time because even the teachers are not there. I'm sorry, teachers aren't there to blame also, and teachers aren't there to support also. So it had to be from there, and it had everything had to happen from the parents end. But we have smart children, I say. I mean, 21st century smart. It was a quick transition. But thinking that just because they are online and they have started studying, they are seeing their teachers every day, does not mean that they are learning.
Okay.
Right. So that, yeah. So that learning took time.
Right.
Yeah. It is
Uh,
still take.
Ritika ma'am, what do you think about this?
Yes, I think, Saurav, I agree with Dr. Narjeet when she says that online classes, it does not mean that the learning is taking place. There are efforts from both the sides. I think um, not during the pandemic, parents' roles have become more defined. It is not that we never expected the parents to be on board with us when physical classes were going on. But I think with this kind of a scenario, the parents have sort of they have taken the role of a teacher at home,
Mm,
which is in a way good because see, when we used to talk about terms like flip learning, blended learning prior to the pandemic, I probably used to listen to the webinars which were, or the seminars conducted in the United States or in Finland or in some exotic schools talking about such learning situations. But I think because the entire year has gone by with an online platform, with online mode of teaching, we are at the threshold of beginning a new era where we have blended education in place. If we are talking about a flipped classroom, at least now we are talking, we are discussing, at least now we are in a frame of mind to accept that technology will become a part and parcel of our teaching practices, be it for primary children, be it for senior children. Technology has become a part, like roti, kapada, makan,
right.
and Wi-Fi. So yeah.
Great. Sushma ma'am, would love to hear your comments on this.
Yeah, I agree with both Dr. Narjeet and Rikita ma'am. And what I know, when 2020 first started, we all started speaking about the 2020 vision and great progress is going to be made. But what it really did was we sort of, slowed down, we reflected inwards. And for the teachers, what happened for the teachers was that we always say for a child to grow, the teacher and the home, or the school and the home, should work together. This actually happened in 2020. We opened our doors, we reached their living rooms, and that collaboration is what is going to take education forward. New relationships were forged. The mother or the parent understood the teacher, the pains that the teacher was taking. And the teachers started putting in that extra effort to make sure that the child was on board. Like they say, a child present in class does not mean anything. Very recently, a colleague shared a picture of her niece. She was on the sofa, half asleep. The class was going on. So it was clicked for fun and it was shown, but that was reality. So something had to be done, and I'm very glad and I'm very honored to be part of this profession of educators who stepped up to this challenge and took it head on, and so successful now. We've adapted, we've changed our style, but yes, I'm sure everything is not correct, or there is scope for development and improvement. But yes, it's going on.
Very, very, very insightful. I mean, from what Dr. Najit said about, it was very difficult for primary students. It is a completely different situation over there. And what Ritika ma'am said, now Wi-Fi is part of our life. We are totally okay with that. And to what Sushma ma'am is saying, that this is the foundation for our future, the collaboration between home and school. Well, let me start with, what Dr. Najit said. Dr. Najit, I would like to again begin with you. So how do we keep primary school children focused, during online classes? Because for the foreseeable future, we are still going to live with online classes. And even after that, let's say, everything becomes close to normal, blended learning is just a part of the school curriculum now. How do we keep primary school students focused during this online learning?
Yeah. Well, Saurabhji, the most important group of teachers are the preschool and primary school teachers, because according to me, they lay the foundation of a child's learning. They define a child's future together, and with it, the future of nature and humankind. And at the same time, I would add, this group of teachers are the most challenged group of teachers as well. Imagine how hard is it to capture the attention of a new generation kid. I mean, how creative one would have to be to excel in this profession, especially online. It has been very challenging to bring them online, as I mentioned earlier also. So it is a task to be there with the kids. So it is clear when you teach the kids online that you cannot be physically present with the kids, but at the same time, your presence should be felt by them. Of course, you can continue with your regular classes. I mean, the parents are also there. They also catch hold of the children. Baitho yahan par, online lectures, everything is happening. But how do you know that they are listening to you? And another major job is to follow the syllabus online systematically. You are following, but are the kids following you? So these are the few things that teachers really have to take care of. So there are so many concepts and programs and tricks and techniques we can talk about for online teaching, which could improve the quality of preschool and primary school education considerably, and also at the same time improve student engagement. I think before we can get down to those tips and tricks, I think it's best to start for teachers, for all of us, to work on timing when we talk about smaller kids, which is very crucial, because you might find that the children are not able to sit at one place for longer duration, and you might need to break up your online lessons differently, than you would have face to face ones. So as a general rule, I would say it's always a good idea to keep a fast pace and break down information into small, digestible chunks. So
Right.
in practical terms, this means to steer clear of lengthy explanations and slide decks and too many information, too much text. Please don't do that. For smaller ones, it is very difficult for them to understand so much of text. What you can do is mix up the tempo of your class by adding a variety of activities, you know and it is also a great way to make the time fly by. Don't just kill the time. Children aren't sitting there to kill their time. You have to make it worthwhile for them. So you have to make the time fly by for your students,
Well,
for yourself as well. So you
so ma'am,
can.
I,
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I really, had a very interesting question coming from there, which I would like to ask Sushma ma'am. Ma'am, so Dr. Najit is pointing out two very, very fundamental things that the teachers are going to face, because they have to redo their lesson plans completely
Yes.
and infuse in it a lot of activities which basically will be only in front of a screen, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you think that the teachers are ready for this, or they are ready to expand their creativity that way with all the other things that they have to do?
Yeah. See, what I believe is that teaching and learning is not a standalone process. It's an interconnected process, and it's not something that the teacher does alone or the child does alone. Okay, there's the child, the teacher, the subject, the context, the purpose of that activity. So when all these things align, only then does engaged learning actually happen. It's like the stars have to align. So all these things have to align properly for good learning to take place. So, teachers, even in the traditional classrooms, it's not easy to keep children engaged. So we we have to think of active learning. We have to think of, another big problem that all of us have as teachers is that we love to talk. We love to give information. Here we need to pause. We need to pause. We need to give opportunities for children to talk. Sometimes, in an online class, a good conversation between the teacher and the child, or between the teacher and the children, in itself is a good learning. You don't have to get down to do a lot of activities. Activities definitely engage the children. A good conversation in itself can be great learning for a primary child. And then, you know, whenever you're trying to give information, if it's meaningful to them, if it is relevant to them, if it is connected to their real life, it makes it a little more engaging, it makes it a little more real and personal. And of course, teachers, they are creative by nature. Most of the teachers are creative, and to stay in the profession, creativity is definitely what teachers sort of inculcate in themselves.
Well, that's such a wonderful statement that all teachers are creative. And creativity is one of these basic tenets. But then, I completely agree with you, Sushma ma'am. When the lockdown started, my first webinar with the school was basically about sustainable development goals. This badge that I wear over here is about SDGs. And the best part of the session was because there were only, I think, 10 kids, and they were all from 5th and 6th standard. They started asking questions. And that conversation was amazing. And the session went, I think, for 3 hours. It was only scheduled for 45 minutes. Ritika, ma'am, do you think that this is practically possible to have these kind of conversations with when you have a class of 30, 40, 50 students?
No.
How do we manage that then?
So continuing with what Ms. Sushma and Dr. Narjeet were just mentioning, I would go back to the same point here, Saurabh, that engagement of parents. Again, it has increased manifold because of these online classes. I'll just share a small example with you that whenever our classes are going on, we generally peep in, we generally online take a tour of all the classes, and I have seen. Children at times they are sitting on their bed comfortably and sitting, and mama is standing and she's holding a glass of milk for the kid, and nudging him to have a glass of milk in between the online classes. So I think this kind of love and care is absolutely detrimental to the process of teaching and learning. So, and this is not and I'm sure this is happening everywhere, especially with the little babies, because they feel ki chalo ghar pe hain, and it doesn't matter, keep them cozy, keep them comfortable. But I think this is the worst thing we can do to our children. So the first thing is to give a designated beautiful little space to your kid where he knows that is his karam bhumi. Now when I say karam bhumi, it is not that he's going to do something really some real academic thing is going to go there. Even if he's doing little activity, coloring, talking, there has to be a little small designated place, because your mind is then ready to sort of be formally working towards something. Otherwise, if you're just sitting on your bed and with mama and papa around you, your mind is not there to accept that acceptance of the mind. It just lowers, because the child is also taking it very. And as it is in primary classes, teachers are very careful with the words. They're very careful with their with the kind of information which is given to the children. And coming back to your question, Saurabh, when there are 30 to 40 children in the class, yes, it is a big problem. But then dividing what we do with our children, that after a month or so passed, we asked our teachers to assess the children without telling them, without informing the parents, just seeing their capabilities, and then sort of grouping them mentally, that fine, these 10 are their learning capabilities lie here, and these 10 are here, and then giving them assignments. And then when the discussion of assignments used to take place, so those 10 would form one group with the teacher, discussion over, okay, and then the next group and the next group. So this way we sort of tried to personalize the information. We tried to kind of focus the learning, the child becoming the center of learning. We've tried it this way. But yes, again, parents, designated space. And yes, one more thing very important, I we always suggest our teachers to follow the 2020 rule. The 2020 rule: 20 minutes, 20 seconds, look outside the window for 20 meters away. I think that's really works. And if you're going to talk for half an hour, they are not interested. So after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you'll have to slow down, and you have to just tell them to either clap or do some physical movement, so that they are engrossed, engaged, crack a joke, sing a song. I think the little strategies which the teachers have to follow.
Great, ma'am. This is so insightful, because I remember I gave that same 2020 rule way back in June to another audience. Dr. Narjeet, since you have been learning and actually giving more knowledge to a lot of people for education platforms, tactile learning for students, for young students, to feel things and to learn from clay or toys and all that, all those things is kind of missing in the online environment. So yes, you can do a little bit of activity, but then again, the other things are missing. How do we kind of counter that problem? It's not very easy to do. Ma'am, you are on mute.
Yeah. So there are lots and lots of things that we have to practice, that we have to do, that we have to follow to make these children actually interested in the classrooms that we are having. As I said earlier also, and as Ritika ma'am also pointed, and it's long dense texts are very challenging to read on screens. You and the silence just doesn't translate well in virtual classes. It provides the perfect excuse for students' attention to drift elsewhere. So planning activities that keeps your students actively clicking, typing, talking throughout the lesson, I think, is the way to go. You can do this by asking them questions. You can include games. You can make them, you have to make sure that the learners have to physically do things, draw tools, type in dialog boxes, stand up, sit down, clap, as Ritika ma'am very aptly pointed. So when you are planning your lesson, remember that you are an online teacher right now, and you have to make sure that the students say something or the other every 2 minutes, 3 minutes. They do something or the other after every 15 minutes or so. And you really have to make them stay on track with their studies also, because ultimately that is what our major goals in Indian scenario is. You have to set goals and constantly remind them of their progress. So you can introduce short term goals, make clear outline of every lesson, the know what they are learning, do contextual things with them, tell them what the activity is all about. So you might think about rewarding students also after they finish the task. You can try positive feedbacks, you can give them badges. There are so many beautiful online certificates, badges, points, games, everything available. You just have to dive in and look for it, and you're going to get amazing things to keep children engaged. You are going to get amazing things to keep them happy also. So but then as teachers also, all of us have should think about how we present ourselves also in the classroom. See, looking neat and organized and confident, I think that inspires a lot of confidence and respect from our students also. So if you are in a webcam, make sure that your location is also all right, you are sitting properly, because the children, they are going to ape you left, right, and center. They do what you tell them to do. For them, your word is, Bible. You really have to do something really nice and engaging. I recently did a very beautiful course in online body language and gestures. In that course, they stated that even with your face and your head, you are exuberating millions of expressions, especially with smaller kids. So that's the first step. So if students
Mm,
can see your face, don't go off your video with smaller kids, especially.
right.
With elder ones, we tend to sometimes, all right, but then if the students can see your face, it's going to be 100 times more motivating for them. If you look engaged, if you look interested, I know going to require saintly teacher patience, but that's how we are going to go. That's the
Right.
way to go. So yeah,
That's so
all these
interesting,
things.
ma'am. Like the body language, online body language, like the amount of
Yes.
body which is visible now, that has all the importance now. You couldn't earlier in the class. You can stand, you can walk around. All
Yeah.
those aspects really played around. Um, but then ultimately, Dr. Najit, what you're talking about is habit formation. Sushma,
Yeah.
ma'am, this habit formation over the past, I think since April end, I think most of the schools got on board with online learning. In whatever way. Do you think since April, since May till now, that habit formation has taken place and students are responding to it now?
Uh, See, no, children are creatures of habit and routine. So
Yeah.
almost all schools, they've set right from say April, they've set their routines. Initially, a lot of us tried to mirror the traditional classroom, but then we quickly learned that was not to be. We learned to scale down things, give them some time for themselves, do tactile exercises, just like you mentioned right now. So all those things happened, and very slowly children have caught on to those habits. Habits are being formed. Homework is being done. Homework is being looked at as very something very creative. I also would like to take upon what Dr. Najit said about the person, the persona of the teacher on the screen. I had this very interesting conversation with one of my students. It was a high school student, and the conversation was about them shutting their videos off, like she said in the higher classes. So what the students told me was, sometimes in class it's a lot of people there. You tend to the teacher does not focus on you, but on screen you feel as though the teacher is just there talking only to you. I was just thinking backwards. For a primary student, for a small student, it is the other way around. The teacher is focusing only on me now. No, so the relationship with the teacher has become a little more intimate. Uh, um, uh, when I actually walk through classes or observe classes, I find the primary classes the most happiest, the most chirpiest, because teachers have to take that extra care to make their activities a little more engaging. Uh, I'll just talk about one such activity that I saw. Uh, um, Generally, in class 4 and 5, we start off with solids, liquids, and gases. So there are these small particles of solids, liquids arrangement diagrams that one makes. In the in the boxes, you put the particles and solids very close to each other, liquid a little bit apart, and gases very apart. So I saw this teacher doing it with a pack of bindi. uh, they have And the excitement in the class doing it with a pack of bindi. There was a bindi on the head, on the forehead. So if the teachers are creating that sort of excitement, and you are picking out a bindi and putting in, that becomes tactile. A small scavenger hunt just before a computer class or something. It elevates the class, creates that kind of engagement and that kind of connect between the teacher and the student. So for me, in all these online classes, the word connect is very, very important. It can be the connect between the child and the teacher. It can be the connect between the child and the subject through the teacher. So the word connections always jumps out to me in these online classes.
Amazing. Uh,
Also, Saurabhji, I would like to add, not only with smaller kids, with the with the elder ones also. I take class 12th English, so whenever I introduce an author or I introduce a poet, I take them on a virtual tour through Google, etc., etc. I take them to a virtual tour of their birthplace. That was not possible in face-to-face classes. You just could tell them, but now you can show them. Okay, this is the country they were born. This is the city, and here Shakespeare had lots of engagements with the theatrical people, and that was the place where they wrote this poem. So that is another kind of, though they are less interested than smaller kids, but interest develops. You can't stop trying. You can't stop trying. That
right.
is the thing. So they love all these things.
Amazing. Reinvention, I think, is the word, when it comes to online learning, especially for primary kids. And thank you so much, Sushma ma'am, for telling us that how the human face can also become the blackboard now for primary kids to learn from. So this brings in a very important question. So, okay, so we've talked about, things which can happen during the classroom, and how teachers can talk about it, make engagement possible, connect, as Sushma ma'am said. Ritika ma'am, I would like to start with you when it comes to this next question. What about homework? Because the homework is there and the teacher is not there, and the parent might or might not have the patience or the time. So how do we counter that?
Um, Sort of when we talk about homework, it cannot be filling up of worksheets. It just cannot be. Homework has to be again creative. And when we are talking about learning, as you were mentioning about tactile learning, I think homework can also be like a project which will involve all the senses. And I strongly recommend gardening. I strongly recommend non-fire cooking for primary children. Both the activities, whether it's gardening or non-fire cooking, it is not something for which you require resources which are not available. मिट्टी है, हाँ, अपने हाथ आपको इसमें डालना है, और you can do amazing things with when it comes to gardening. You can, the children can be this way, can be in touch with nature. They can just wonder, they can stare, they can be, their hearts and their minds can be full of amazement, and they can enjoy and nurture nature at the same time. So engaging them in activities which would require them to dirty their hands in mud is very important. Again, cooking, non-fire cooking for primary children, it is nothing but science, isn't it? You are measuring, you are mixing. There is a third thing which is going to come up. So what is this? You are talking about mathematics, you are talking about mixing things. Chemistry definitely finds a way in when you're talking about ingredients. There are new words which you learn. So English, definitely your vocabulary, the child's vocabulary is going to improve. So not thinking of worksheets as homework, but thinking of homework which would urge them to make something, to build something. I'm sure it cannot happen always, but once in a while, yes. Like for example, for classes 4 and 5, when they do little project work on pyramids, it is so beautiful, when they just take few pieces and they try to make a pyramid, the shape of the pyramid in mathematics, how many triangles are joining, which era, which country, language, script. So we have sort of included so many ideas in one pyramid. So you needn't give this as an English, history, maths homework. This has English, history, maths, science, everything embodied into one structure, and that's a simple pyramid, right? So like for since this is something which we are doing for this seminar is per se for primary, but like in our middle classes, we have Republic Day coming the next month. So we've divided the class into groups where children are researching on each state. So the children who are good in dancing will present a dance. The children who are good in designing costumes will talk. The children who are good in computers will compile a video. So we are sort of collaborating with all, multiple intelligences, and creating something beautiful. So yes, homework has to be creative. It has to be, children should be using their hands and their heart. Mind, of course, they will use, but yes, their heart has to be into it.
Right. Sushma ma'am, a follow-up question from what Ritika ma'am said, because she said very insightful things, collaboration, building things, involving all the five senses and, more senses and more multiple intelligence based on the theory you follow. Do you think this is actually more interesting than what used to happen before?
Definitely, definitely. These collaborative projects, what Ritika ma'am is talking about, they create a sense of achievement for the students. And especially if it's not done by one person itself, like what she was talking about right now, and involving a lot of other subjects together, they are great in the sense it connects to all the multiple, to the different intelligences, and even your social behavior also. The way you collaborate with somebody, the way you problem solve. When collaborations happen, problems also tend to happen. So how you problem solve. So a lot of isolation, which the students are feeling right now, that can be avoided and that can be negated through these collaborative projects. So even in our schools, we have been taking up these collaborative projects for all classes, and children definitely show in a lot of interest when for doing these collaborative projects. And yes, these can be replicated and these should be replicated when children come back to school. So even though this has been a disruptive year in terms of schooling, there's been a lot of gains.
Yeah.
Teachers
If you can just highlight which software you use for this collaborative project where children can communicate and share notes.
So generally what we use is for our children, we use a Google platform. So we have Google Classrooms. And when we need to take out, smaller sections and smaller group discussions, we then go to Zoom and use the Zoom breakout rooms for all these things. Otherwise, the Google platform, the entire Google suite with the Google Docs and SlideShare, everything, we generally use these platforms. And yes, recently, one teacher had used some comic makers to create, for the English thing to be done into a computer thing. So a lot of apps are being discovered by teachers. These apps were always there. It's just that we never used them in our traditional classes. So these teachers are now discovering these apps, and every day, every week, there's something new that a teacher is adding to a repository.
This brings a very important. I think they just create so much noise. I'm so sorry, Sushma ma'am. I'm going to switch to Dr. Narjeet ma'am. So if Sushma ma'am, if you could, yeah. Dr. Narjeet, you have been a web, podcaster, web developer. So obviously you're really fond of technology. And as Sushma ma'am rightly pointed out, new apps are coming in, new software is being used. Whether parents like it or not, the students now need to learn this software and spend a lot of time on the phone or the computer or whatever device they're using. Do you think that all the parents are happy with this? I mean, because I'm asking you this question because I'm sure that you also have faced a lot of resistance in your life, when it comes to using technology and everything. Do you think the same shift is there? Are people more open now?
The parents, I think we had to do a lot of PTMs per se. We had to do a lot of collaborative activities with parents first and children later to make them understand that this is the time when we can't do without technology. This is the time we can't do away with mobile phones. You have to have that technology available. And mind you, there weren't many parents also who were sound enough to train their or help or support their kids, because ultimately the child has to do all this at home with the support of their parents. So even that was a very daunting task for us in our school. In my school, there are parents, be it senior school or primary school, there are parents who really needed to be guided through, okay, you have to you can download this app, you can go to this place, you have to do this. So for that, yes, we had to just struggle a little bit, but then everything is smooth now because they know that you
But
can't
Navdeep,
do
ma'am, I
without.
mean, the thing is, I mean, I'll just give a small example of this 12th standard student. Um, I will not name the location and school, but yes, I know about the story. What he did was he simply cheated on the exam because it was so easy to cheat on the exam online. And when you hear these stories, you know that he was able to easily cheat on the exam. And when you ask them why are you cheating, well, it is not good for you. You're almost an adult now. You should understand these things. He says because everybody else is doing. The topper of the class is doing it. So when you hear these stories, and then parents start asking questions, is it really the right thing to do? Then how do you manage those expectations of parents?
See, cheating. This is these are more of ethical problems rather than technical. I can make them, I can bring them on Google Classroom. I can make sure that they have a second device ready where I can keep a watch on them and you don't unmute yourself. You have to keep your, but children, ultimately the elder ones especially, they have 100 other ways to cheat on the paper, right? So see, formats have changed, technology has improved, teaching trends, as we call, teaching trends are changing. But ultimately what we need to understand, ultimately, and we have to tell parents also, is that teaching trends are rising in popularity, and there are few things that are falling out of fashion, but there are many other things that remain unchanged. We are still teachers, and it is the parents. I mean, I can make everything um, ready from my end. I can bring my teachers to school. Okay, from school we are going to do this and the children are going to be online, but we are still teachers, and we still shape the future with our words and actions. And whether they have to be delivered in front of a class or transmitted across immense distances in an online classroom. So I tell my parents that it is distance learning. Okay, don't take it as distance education. Distance sometimes may imply coldness, but just because we are not physically present there doesn't mean that we are cold. See, education is a gift ultimately, and the best gifts come from the heart. So we are distance, we might not be close, but don't forget to put your heart in your lessons or in your studies when we are doing it, and the students respond. You see, when you keep on giving a sort of online training to the children, with a teacher like me, they will try a little less, that she's going to catch hold of us because she knows the techniques and she knows the tricks that we are going to use. So this is what I mean. There are so many softwares, and you have to tell the parents, see, ultimately it is you who are sitting with the child. It is your child who's appearing for the boards. So please be there with us, support us, help us, sit with your children when they are writing papers, and don't allow them to cheat on. That's the only thing out, that's the only thing that you can do, nothing else. Okay, if the parents understand, if the children, and the children have to be hammered. You have to hammer this कि बच्चे चीटिंग करने से कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला है, कुछ नहीं. अल्टीमेटली बोर्ड्स में आपने खुद जाके लिखना है, नो मामा नो पापा, मामा कहाँ है पापा कहाँ है, और नथिंग इज गोना हैपन. कोई मोबाइल, कोई डेस्कटॉप, कोई कुछ नहीं, नथिंग. It is you have to write. So with 10th and 12th, yeah.
Those are so many small nuances that teachers and parents have to take care of. Ritika ma'am, coming back to you, before we end this thread of questioning, do you think all these small nuances are documented somewhere? Because this is through experience. Like all three of you have experienced so much in the past 8 months. I'm pretty sure it's much more than a lot of years combined as well. All these small nuances, is there a ready reference guide available, a text for teachers in smaller cities, in smaller schools, to take note from, because they are going to face these challenges sooner or later?
Um, Saurabh, again, I would like to second what Dr. Narjeet just mentioned, that this is not a technical issue. This is an ethical issue, right? We are having workshops left, right, and center, webinars talking about how technology, has taken over. I think we are talking less about love, compassion, empathy. We are not talking about how to inculcate the values of honesty, resilience in our children, and I think that is something which is imperative, important. Technology has already it has already bombarded, it is already there in our lives. I mean, there is nothing. I'll tell you something very frankly, Saurabh, from my experience. A year back, when a child used to falter in the examinations, or there used to be certain academic gaps, and whenever the parent, I used to interact with the parents, whenever I used to ask them that, does your child have a laptop and a mobile, and if the parent said yes, I would tell them, no, please, your child needs a digital detox. Please don't do that. You're doing this. How was I to know that my own children, they're going to sit with a mobile and a laptop and things like that? Children have adapted to this like fish to water. They don't need to adapt to this change. It is we need to see how our upbringing, where are we going wrong if our children are cheating in their exams. As parents, as teachers, specifically primary teachers, specifically parents, I definitely tell the parents that when we do a lot of social service, हम ये करते हैं वो करते हैं, बहुत अच्छा है. सबसे अच्छी social service है अपने बच्चों को अच्छी values देना. And if as a parent, as a teacher, we cannot give these values to our children, I don't see there's any point of discussion here, because this is something which they're going to, if a person is dishonest, it's going to be carried forward when the person is in a relationship, probably in a job or wherever. So this is something which is slightly overlapping. And coming back to your question, yes, we do have case studies. We do have I think there are many notified journals available in the with CBSE and with other organizations where we have case studies like this. But I think more to do with that, it's your own experience and it's your own human gut which tells you what is right and what is wrong.
Wow. So COVID-19 and the associated blended learning phenomena in India is going to form the moral backbone for our future generation. So that is quite a statement. Sushma ma'am, I would like to start the next thread with you, of the thread of questioning with you. So in all the discussion that we've had so far, all the conversations, there was this very important element called the parent. It was present in each and every sentence and paragraph that we discussed. When the children come back to school, it's not if, when the children come back to school, how is that gap going to be fulfilled? Because the teacher cannot be with 30, 40 kids like the way the parents were.
See, children are a very resilient lot. They adapt very, very quickly. Even before we think they are there, they're ready to change. They've changed. So I will give children all the credit. So if the parents are not going to be there, they're going to adapt themselves. The teacher, they will understand what the classroom situation is, and they will adapt themselves. Of course, teacher support and peer support groups will take over what the parent was giving. Another thing that I want to mention is that when children are going to come back, again, the situation is not going to be as similar to what we had seen just before the lockdown. So maybe children are going to come back in batches. So it would be tapered slowly and slowly, especially for the younger children. They are not going to come back in bulk and not going to be let alone. Completely devoid of attention. So it's going to be tapered. It's going to be in batches. So children will adapt, and that is the beauty of the little children that we teach.
Amazing. So Children's resilience is definitely going to be there, and we all know, we all underestimate our children a lot, quite a lot actually. I was in, discussing, and I experienced the Montessori method in pre nursery in Japan last year, and that was the first thing. Ritika ma'am was talking about non-fire cooking classes. There, the children were actually involved in fire-based cooking also. They were so careful with what they were doing. They were so smart, and you just can't expect those things. Dr. Narjeet, uh, so parents will not be there, children will be resilient. But then the number of screens that the children are having right now, as Ritika ma'am also pointed out, quite some time back, that, I couldn't really imagine that so many screens will be there. Those screens might not be there in the school. How are they going to, manage that? Because the school will be the desk and chair again.
So, Saurabh, I feel as some schools reopen for in-person learning, the teachers and the schools and the parents also included are going to face a whole new back to school to-do list, yeah, new list that they are going to create. So, I mean, teaching children how to reduce the risk, adapt to new routines, handle awkward social interactions, cope with worries, anxiety, and with pre-primary also to deal with mama kahan hai, papa pass jana hai kind of routine. So that also we have to take care of when they come back. All said and done, we need not forget that we also have kids with additional needs. So a return as quickly as possible, I feel, to regular school and learning will be like a warm winter blanket for our special children. But trust me, I mean, changing routines was the harshest on them. I know a child whose parents had to struggle a lot when the schools were shut down. Placing him in a new routine was getting hard. It was a long process. Only when the child saw the teacher's face in an online class would he calm a little. So I think taking cue from this specific case study from my school that I have experienced, we all need to take care not to overload or exhaust or frustrate the parents with too many demands. So they are accustomed to a certain pattern at home. Bringing them back to school is going to be a daunting task again, because now for 8 9 months they have fallen into a different platform. So we need to be very very careful with our plans here, and trust me, with our special kids, the schools really need to prepare this well in advance. Also, a new
But do you think
term.
all the most of the schools are actually preparing for this plan?
We are, and the schools must. That is what I wanted this platform to communicate. Also, just think about those children. Also, they have, they we should start planning for them, because they are the ones. I feel that who have been affected, if not worst, but in a very different way. They know their routines very well. Like we have, children suffering from autism or other special kids. It's very difficult for them, falling in and out of routines. It's very difficult. So the schools must plan for them. चाहे आप दो बच्चे बुलाइए, तीन बुलाइए, जब स्कूल ओपन हो, don't bring them together, bring them one by one, give them lots and lots of support. Even if they want their parents to be around for a while, you can make them come to school for 2 hours, 1 hour. So these kinds of strategically carefully laid out plans are very required. Also, the children are going to come, I love to coin a term, COVID assortment diversity kind of children. For example, the students who have effective access to technology at home,
Ma'am, ma'am,
they may
ma'am.
have. Yeah,
You
sure,
will
sure.
have to
Yeah,
repeat that term because I think we didn't catch it properly.
it is COVID assortment diversity, which I feel,
Wow.
because this diversity has been, I mean, among children, there are a few who have the other things, but then there are students with very limited access, with additional learning needs. They may have got limited progress. So we have to have a system designed that will have to serve to lessen existing variance between our least and most needy students when they return to schools. And also one group of children, definitely I will mention here, who do not have a safe environment at home. Saurabhji, and for whom assembly grounds, the teachers, the friends, and the classrooms have served as a refuge. The students who have found a community within the school, or the students who I say will rely for their sustenance and security on schools. So we really need to balance our students' mental and emotional loads, so they may stumble a little bit less when they return. A few
That
years
is a
ago,
very, very well thought out,
yes.
statement. In fact, I would just like to add over there. We created an education forum after the lockdown. Me and a bunch of other educators from different domains. And once we invited, we have two ex Teach for India fellows also in that forum, and one of them invited the students from a government school in Jahangirpuri in New Delhi. Now, those girls, they talked about the fact that how they miss school not only for academics, because school was an escape for them. It was a complete escape for them, and now they just can't wait for the schools to reopen. And I think that is one of the reasons why. Also, I mean, the authorities, the government, and the court, everyone said, okay, let's open the school. It's a choice. Parents consent or not, because for a lot of kids, school is a very, very important aspect of their lives.
And
Um,
I really feel for those kids. I
yes.
had a student a couple of years back. Mother had passed away, and 2 days later, he was there in the school. So I told him, I am allowing you to be absent. Take your time, go moon, do things. I mean, there are so many things to take care of. And then he said, "No, ma'am, I find all that solace in school only." So my heart
So
goes
that
out to
also
such
brings up
kids.
very,
Yeah,
very important question. I mean, so accept it or not, I mean, COVID has been a huge health problem for the entire world. Um,
mental health.
if I'm not mistaken, I think more than 1.5 lakh people in India, at least official figures, have died because of COVID-19. And a lot of our students will have somebody they lost. Are the schools prepared for managing that kind of grief? Ritika ma'am, I would like to start with you. Do you think we are ready to manage their grief that way?
Unfortunately, yes, this has been, we've been noticing as the statistics mentioned by you. Yes, Saurabh, I think we are ready because again the pointer is towards the teachers. We have counselors, we have special educators, but then the numbers are limited. So the teacher here has to be a mentor, a counselor, someone who's listening, patiently listening, giving solutions, and just being there for the children. And I think hats off to all the teachers of the world who have really come up, they have really risen to this occasion. They have the lockdown time, yes, online classes, and we've talked about it so many times during our discussion also, that children have adapted well. It is the adults, teachers, parents who took their time to actually adapt to the new scenario, and the teachers did it super fast vis-a-vis the parents. And now when the schools are going to reopen, teachers will again have to be standing with the children rock solid, giving their support unconditionally to them.
Mhm.
We have to empower our teachers, Saurabh. I mean, we have to create more awareness and empowerment program for our teachers so that they are mentally ready to take this pressure, because it's not easy.
It's not easy at all. Very well said, ma'am. I had another question. This is a slightly tangential conversation that we got into, nevertheless, very important. The question was, Ritika ma'am, so there has been a lot of positives also, as Sushma ma'am also pointed out earlier, that there are some collaborative activities which we were not able to probably do properly before. When we go back to school, are we going to lose out on all those positives?
Not really, Saurabh. I think this is where pandemic has played its part. We are on the threshold of actually accepting blended learning into our classrooms. We are ready to. They say, you have to empty your cup to learn new things. Our teachers have already emptied their cups. They have already made friends with technology. which was a kind of a hindrance with 90% of our teachers. I mean, 10% of the teachers were always very good with technology. They would make presentations for their children. They'll do something or the other. But specifically, sometimes the Hindi departments, the Sanskrit, the languages, they would be so comfortable with chalk and the talk method. But now they have all sort of embraced technology, and I don't think this will go waste, because now is the time to move in the direction of embracing technology. But how much is the question. You can't be chewing more than what you can digest. So it cannot be technology all over, and it cannot be the traditional classroom with the teacher at the center of learning. It has to be the student, and it has to be the traditional and the tech, the blend of both the things together, served to the children for their best. And I don't think this is going to go waste. These 9 months or 8 months of learning, this is definitely not going waste, and it is up to uh, the people who are formulating rules, regulations, CBSE, Department of Education, school managements. They have to make sure that whatever policies are made thereafter, those policies include an impact of technology, and of course the traditional methods, the new project works, the kind of how classes are conducted. The policy making has to be really strong, and here the managements, the principals, CBSE, everyone has to sort of come together and give a blueprint to all the schools. Of course, teachers are doing their best, but there has to be a blueprint.
And this is so appropriate. And actually, yeah, there's this education forum. I would like all of you to follow it. They started on March 21st or 22nd. The lockdown happened earlier in the US. So a bunch of these really senior, well-known researchers in education from the best universities in the US and Canada, they came together to form this forum called the Silver Lining for Education. And I think the pandemic has also been a silver lining for education in India, because accept it or not, now the policymakers, the decision makers, the management, the teachers, they all have to do it. They have to do it. It's not on paper anymore, right? Which brings us to the 1 hour mark. It has been amazing discussion. I would like to invite concluding remarks. Dr. Narjeet, would love to start with you. Your concluding remarks for today's discussion and education in general.
See, there are so many things. I feel that for primary children, there is schools are more than places for learning. They are the center for their communities, playing very critical roles in providing them physical safety, mental health, social, emotional well-beings. So the school systems, I believe, will have to be really ready to roll out their remote, flipped, hybrid learning plans. They must ensure that they are not only building trust with teachers and parents and students, but also help the teachers and the schools build the kind of relationship with students, that encourage learning. So to ensure a more equitable future, we must act together to overcome lots of difficulties that we have talked about today. And I would really like the education ministry to take up, to come out with some plans and policies and training modules for teachers, because our educators, the safest investment you can make is in education. The brightest investment anybody can make is in the field of education. As educators, also, we have used this difficult time as an opportunity to build a better education system for the future. We never stop trying, and our hats off to every teacher in any corner of the world. Hats off to them. They never stopped trying. So I hope that we are going to come up with a beautiful flipped, blended, hybrid education learning system, wherein the needs and requirements of all the students are met, where all students feel accepted, the teachers who are juggling with multiple batons at any given point of time. So making special assembly, getting students ready for competitions, taking online classes, designing homework, assessing their homework, and making report cards. I think I really, really would like to cheer for the teachers who have really risen to the occasion and have given whatever they could in these changing. I mean, the things are still changing. Nothing is constant as of now. Every new day we are asking them to, okay, try this software, you can try this collaborative, you can go to Google Docs, you can do MindMister, you can do Bubble, you can do Flabero. There are hundreds and hundreds of softwares. Everybody's trying, everybody's doing. And so accolades, lots of accolades for all of us, all of the teachers. And I hope our India is going to come up with a, NEP came in a very came it with a lot of hope that we are going to see a change in the education system in India. But still there are lots of things that can be tried and tested there. Until that comes into being, till that gets begun with, as we say, I think we are doing pretty well, and we need to do a lot more.
Perfect. So we're definitely a work in progress, and hopefully that work will turn into something very nice. Sushma ma'am, I would like to invite your concluding remarks on this particular discussion and education.
Yes, Saurabh. See, 2020 has been a disruptive year, but most of the educators have turned it into an year of opportunity to probably look at their own practices. We, as a school, we did that. We looked at our own practices. We looked at how teaching learning happens in our school, and since it was a disruptive school, we didn't mind going that extra mile to try out something new so that we could carry it back to the classrooms and when we reconvene. So I'm sure most schools have done that, and everybody has gained from that, those kind of experiences. It is also somehow, in my opinion and in my experience, has brought the school and the home a little more closer. So that is something again that I value very much. Because the home and the school is working for the same cause, the child. So when there is this blend which has happened, uh, it's going to be beautiful. Oh, we are awaiting the sounds of children in our corridors once more, hoping that the classrooms very slowly and in a very safe manner filled with children. So looking forward to that, and whatever we have done, whatever, when I say we, I mean teachers all around the world. Whatever we have done, uh, I'm very very proud to be a teacher.
And isn't that a beautiful sentiment? The same sentiment has been shared by all the previous panelists who have come on Education Leaders Confluence. That the school and the home have come closer. I hope it continues to do so in ways, more amazing ways. Ritika ma'am, please share your concluding comments about this.
Yes, Saurabh. Just to conclude, I'll conclude it with an example of the Choluteca Bridge in Central America. That's one of my favorite examples. A bridge to nowhere. For the ones who are uninitiated, let me tell you that bridge in Central America. Then Hurricane Mitch, and suddenly, people observed that the bridge was, there, but the river changed its course. So the problem changed, the solution what was actually of no use thereafter. So let's build an education system which is there. Let's build to adapt rather than build to last, vis-a-vis build to last. So yes, let's embrace technology. Let's us work in unison, the parents and teachers, and let's give our children best of both the worlds, the traditional teaching methods, and of course the tech infused education.
Perfect. That is such an appropriate example, also, ma'am, and quite a famous one actually at that.
Absolutely, I love this example, quoted everywhere.
Right. So that was it. All the viewers, thank you so much for joining us today. And especially, I would like to thank all the wonderful panelists who have kind of shared with us the decades of experience that they've had and the most amazing experiences that they had in the last 8, 9 months. They were kind enough to share all those case studies with us so that we could learn from them and take this baton forward. Because, mind you, education is not only the responsibility of the educators. The society needs to change as well and adapt as well, accept things how things are happening. I would request all the panelists to please stay back, and we are going to cut the live stream. So don't exit the meeting just yet. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. And if you have any questions to any of the panelists, let me just remind you, Sushma Rajkumar ma'am is from Lucknow, CMS. Ritika Anand ma'am is from St. Mark's in Mirabag in New Delhi. And Dr. Narjeet Bhatia ma'am is from Guru Harkrishan Public School in Kalkaji in New Delhi. If you have any questions, please do write to us, and I'll make sure that they reach out to them. Thank you so much. And
Thank you,
namaste.
Saurabh.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Saurabh.
Thank you,
so
Saurabh.
much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a very good day.
Thank you.
So Manish